I can't believe I'm even saying this out loud, but I guess there's no turning back once I start. My name is Ashley, I'm 28, and I live in Ohio. I used to think I was some sort of social media rock star, posting everyday things as if they were celebrity moments, getting likes from people I barely know. In my head, I was convinced that was the path to feeling accomplished. Like if I could just hit that next milestone of popularity, I'd feel secure in who I was. When I met Shane 5 years ago at this casual birthday dinner for a mutual friend, I remember thinking, wow, he's so chill. Maybe he can ground me. He was 29 back then, working a regular desk job, and he seemed so centered, like he didn't need the spotlight or the fancy stuff that I was always itching for. We started talking, and it felt easy, fun, like we clicked in a way that made me think I could be my best self with him. In our first few dates, we mostly did laid back things. Grabbed coffee, walked around random little shops, binge watched silly shows in my cramped apartment. I liked how comfortable it felt, even if I was already daydreaming about the Instagrammable life. Shane was easy to be around and never tried to show off, and ironically, that's what I found attractive. I was sick of dudes who tried too hard, bragging about their car or their money or their big future. Shane, on the other hand, had a quiet confidence. We started officially dating, and I posted about it immediately, because of course I did. I had to let the world know I'd found a decent guy. We got a bunch of comments like, "You two look so good together," and "OMG, couple goals," and I soaked it all up like it was some kind of trophy. We got married 2 years after we met, and honestly, for a while, I really felt like I was on top of the world. We didn't have a huge wedding. We couldn't afford some lavish party, but we made it work with a simple ceremony and a small reception in my parents' backyard. My relatives adored Shane, probably because he was polite, had zero drama, and seemed happy enough with the simple life. I told myself that was what I wanted too, that stable love, the no frills life. We ended up living in a modest apartment that was a little too small for my taste, but it was what we could afford together. I was working in a customer service position, taking phone calls all day, dealing with annoyed customers, while Shane did his 9 to 5 at a nearby office. It wasn't glamorous, but we paid our bills on time. At first, it felt romantic to be in that newlywed bubble, ordering pizza and snuggling on the couch, or going on cheap weekend road trips. We'd snap a few photos, I'd post them with some sweet caption, and people would comment how we seemed so in love. That kind of validation made me feel like, okay, maybe this is my fairy tale. But as our first year of marriage went by, I started noticing little things. Shane would come home, plop on the couch, and basically stay there for hours. It was like he was mentally checked out from trying to improve or step up. I'd scroll through my phone, seeing these influencer couples traveling, buying fancy things, looking so put together, and I'd get annoyed that we weren't doing more. I remember dropping hints like, hey, maybe you could ask your boss about that promotion, or why not start a little side hustle? I'd see other people making easy money online, and I'd think, why can't we do that too? Shane would just shrug, say he was comfortable, and that maybe, in a few months, he'd look into new opportunities. I started getting frustrated because it felt like I was the only one with ambition. It wasn't that I wanted him to become a millionaire overnight. I just wanted progress, something more than the same old dinner, TV, and bed routine. Eventually, I began pouring my restlessness into social media. I'd stage photos that made our life look more exciting than it was, like we were that adorable couple that does cutesy date nights every week. I'd pick a trendy cafe, drag Shane there on a Saturday morning, snap a bunch of pictures, and post them with a witty caption about quality time with my love. In reality, Shane would have been just as happy at some hole in the wall diner wearing the same old sweatpants. Nothing wrong with that, but I was hungry for something bigger. I liked the idea that people thought we had it all together. We started having small arguments, mostly about money or how we spent our free time. Shane wanted us to save, keep it low key, and I wanted to try out new things, maybe even travel more. I'd see my friends updating their status, showing off new cars, or going on trips, and it would spark envy. I'd tell Shane, we never do anything like that. And he'd say, you know our budget, Ashley. Let's be realistic. Every time he said the word realistic, I'd want to roll my eyes out of my head. I'd think, who says we can't be bold, take risks, and make life amazing? Still, he and I had some good moments. He'd surprise me by picking up groceries so I didn't have to do it after a stressful day at work. He'd randomly text me a funny meme when I was stuck in a call queue from hell. I'd show him silly dance videos, and sometimes we'd attempt them at home, falling over ourselves. I guess it was a reminder that he did care, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he was too complacent. In my mind, couples that flourish are always reaching for something new together. But I also started noticing that whenever we had disagreements, I'd be the one talking the loudest, and he'd just let me steamroll him. I'd catch myself pushing him into corners, twisting words around so I could guilt trip him into doing what I wanted. I never really named it as manipulation at the time, but looking back, I can see how I sometimes used intimacy or affection to get my way. Like if he upgraded my phone or agreed to go to some trendy restaurant, I'd be all over him. But if he said no, I'd turn cold. We started hanging out more with a couple of my friends and their partners, usually for small get togethers. Everyone was on social media, documenting every second. Shane would just smile politely, but I could tell he was bored or out of place. I, on the other hand, was living for the chance to post in a group shot, tagging everyone, racking up likes. My friends would tease Shane, calling him Mr. Chill, and I laughed along because I thought it was harmless. But if I'm honest, I felt a hint of annoyance each time. Like, yeah, he really is too chill, right? I wanted him to be more fun, more brag-worthy. I never told him that directly, but it ate at me. Then there was that night, a little over a year ago, when we were at a small party at my friend Tara's place. It was nothing fancy, just about 10 people, some drinks, some music, and everyone joking around. Shane and I were playing this group game, and someone asked a random question like, "What's the biggest achievement you've had in the past 3 years?" It went around the circle. People mentioned job promotions, new cars, engagement announcements, stuff like that. When it got to Shane, he paused, shrugged, and said, "I guess getting married to Ashley was a pretty big deal for me." That was his honest answer. He wasn't trying to be funny. People all gave these, "Ah, that's sweet," looks, but I felt a strange twinge of embarrassment. Like that was literally all he had to say. I blurted, "Oh, come on, that's basically your only accomplishment, right?" In a joking tone, but it was one of those jokes that had an edge. Everyone sort of froze for a second. I laughed it off, tried to act like I was just teasing him, but I could see something change in Shane's face. It was like he realized in that moment that maybe I didn't respect him as much as I acted like I did. One of our friends tried to make light of it. "Ashley, you're harsh!" But it was awkward. Shane went quiet, and for the rest of the night, he barely spoke. When we got home, he asked me, "Do you really think I haven't done anything except marry you?" And I immediately got defensive, saying, "Why are you so sensitive? It was a joke." He looked hurt and went to bed without another word. Over the next few days, the tension was thick. I tried to push it away by busying myself with social media. I posted pictures from that night, carefully selecting the ones where we looked happiest, writing some sappy caption like, "Loved spending the evening with my favorite guy." I wanted to control the narrative, make it seem like everything was perfect. Meanwhile, Shane withdrew even more. He stopped making those small efforts. No more surprising me with coffee, no more random text memes. It was like he was done trying to please me. Part of me felt guilty, but another part was annoyed that he was acting so dramatic over one silly joke. That's how I phrased it in my head. My friends got wind of what happened. Some of them told me I was out of line. Others just shrugged and said, "He'll get over it." I was leaning on the ones who told me it wasn't a big deal, because it made me feel validated. I didn't want to truly admit I was disrespecting him. Shane and I had this bigger talk a week later, and he basically told me he felt like I was always pushing him to be someone else, someone who wanted all the things I wanted. He said, "I'm not going to become a different person just so you can have something flashy to post online." And I snapped right back saying, "You act like I'm some fame-crazed teenager." He asked me, "Aren't you?" And that stung because maybe I was. The tension kept growing. We'd have ups and downs. Some days we'd act normal, cook dinner together, watch a show, and it felt like old times. Other days, especially when I got bored or envious of what I saw online, I'd pick fights. I'd tell him he should get a certification or network more at work, and he'd say he was content. Then I'd huff, "You're so lazy!" And he'd get silent again. Eventually, the small resentments piled up into something heavier. I'd get fed up and go out with my single friends, posting pictures of me having a grand time, subtly implying I was happier without him. Shane would just stay home, which irritated me even further. We also started having little spats about intimacy. I'd accuse him of not paying attention to me, of not showing me enough excitement, and he'd say it was hard to be affectionate when he felt constantly belittled. I think that's when we really started slipping away from each other. If I'm being really honest, I used it as a weapon. If he didn't do what I wanted, like plan a better date or dress a certain way, I'd turn off any warmth. It was a power play, and I didn't see it for what it was until later. I just thought I was teaching him a lesson about how to treat me. One night, we were supposed to go to a casual work gathering for his office. I showed up in this tight outfit, wanting to impress people and show off that I'm the hot wife, but Shane barely acknowledged it. The entire time he was polite to his colleagues, introducing me, but he wasn't showing me the attention I expected. On the drive home, I exploded, saying something like, "Why am I even trying if you don't appreciate me?" And he said, "Ashley, you do this for strangers' applause, not for me." That statement got under my skin so badly, I was shaking in frustration. That was probably the moment I realized I was teetering on an edge. We got into a big argument at home later that week. I was pushing him again about applying for a better position or picking up some freelance gig, and he said, "You're never happy with what we have, are you?" I shot back, "Well, well, you've never given me a reason to be." I could see the hurt in his eyes, and instead of backing down, I doubled down. I started ranting about how I was sick of being with someone who was average, that I deserved more. I even brought up that old party joke, saying, "It's true, though, your biggest accomplishment is marrying me, and you don't even appreciate me." He said, "I'm done with this," and walked out of the room. I sat there fuming, but also felt this weird knot in my stomach. A couple days later, I decided I'd had enough. I left. I grabbed a bag, told him, "I'm going to stay with my friend for a while. You clearly don't want to grow with me, so what's the point of us being together?" In my head, I thought this would be the dramatic wake-up call that would force him to realize he had to fight for me, chase me, do better. But he didn't. He just said, "If that's what you need, then go." I left, slamming the door behind me, feeling a mix of anger and triumph, like, "Ha, you'll regret losing me." The first couple of weeks, I stayed at my friend's small place. She let me crash on her couch. I kept up appearances on social media, posting pictures of me going out, acting carefree. People in our circle started asking if Shane and I were okay because they noticed I wasn't posting anything with him. I pretended everything was fine, that I was just focusing on myself. Secretly, I was waiting for Shane to beg me to come home, but he never did. One time I texted him something like, "Don't you miss me?" And he replied, "I miss who you used to be, not who you are now." That stung, but I still wouldn't admit maybe I messed up. I started realizing how expensive it was to live without Shane's half of the bills. My friend was sweet, but obviously she wasn't looking to house me forever. I was running low on funds because I spent too much trying to look like I was living this fun single life, constantly going out, grabbing drinks, playing it up. Meanwhile, Shane was just going to work, paying rent on our apartment alone, not reaching out much. At first, I was furious, thinking he's so heartless, but another part of me felt a creeping sense of panic, like maybe I'd overplayed my hand. I tried to keep the drama alive by venting to anyone who would listen, telling them how Shane was holding me back, how he refused to grow. Some friends nodded along, others looked at me like I was losing it. A few called me out, saying, "Aren't you the one who disrespected him? You made that messed up joke about him." I brushed it off, insisting they didn't get it, that he was making me miserable. But deep down, I knew I was deflecting. I could feel that emptiness. I was searching for a bigger life, but all I had was my friend's cramped living room and a bunch of forced social media posts. Eventually, I hit a wall. I realized I might have actually pushed him too far this time. The life I thought I wanted, a glamorous, bold, influencer style adventure, didn't magically appear just because I walked away from him. All I had were pictures that got old fast and a ton of regrets swirling in my head. At night, I considered moving back, but my pride wouldn't let me apologize. In my mind, I was still telling myself he should apologize first for not being ambitious. That's how twisted my thinking was. Finally, after a couple of months, Shane reached out. He asked if I was coming to grab the rest of my stuff or if he should pack it up. It hit me then that maybe this was actually the end. I still wasn't ready to say sorry, so I just told him I'd pick it up soon. I went back to our apartment and it felt so strange. It wasn't a grand place, but it was ours. The living room had that old couch we used to cuddle on, the kitchen where we made cheap dinners but had fun messing around. All of a sudden, I missed those simpler days, but I couldn't show it. I ended up grabbing a box of stuff and we barely spoke. He seemed calm, not angry, just done. Later that night, I cried in my friend's bathroom, feeling like I'd lost something important, but still not wanting to fully own up to my mistakes. I told myself he should have tried harder. He should have fought for me. He should have been the one to chase that promotion, that bigger paycheck, that influencer couple lifestyle. But a little voice in my head said, he was happy with a normal life, and you shattered it. I pushed that voice away, though, because it made me feel guilty. In the months that followed, I tried to distract myself. I even went on a couple of casual dates, but none of them felt right. It was clear these guys were just not going to fill that void. And I was so used to how Shane made me feel safe, even if he bored me sometimes. I considered unblocking him on social media. Yeah, I'd blocked him at one point out of pettiness, but I figured I'd see if he reached out first. He never did. I'm sitting here now realizing that I might have been the main problem all along. It's not that I fully believe I was wrong. My pride won't let me go there. But I do see how I destroyed something stable for this illusion of something better. I threw it away with that one joke that exposed how little I respected him. I know I messed up, but part of me still thinks he could have tried harder to keep me. That's the messed up logic I live with. Everyone always says I'll regret what I did, and maybe I already do, but I also feel like I'm stuck. I wanted Shane to be more ambitious, to accomplish things. But maybe I should have realized that our definitions of success were just different. He found happiness in everyday life while I wanted fireworks and applause. The difference is, I never stopped to consider that we could meet in the middle. I let my ego and my social media fantasies dictate our marriage, and when he didn't measure up, I basically told the world he was a loser. Looking back, I think the worst part is that he really did love me, and I took advantage of that. I acted like I was above him, like I was the reason his life was any good. And now I'm alone, living in some crummy arrangement, halfway wanting him to call and say come back, so I can keep ignoring my part in the mess. But maybe he finally learned he deserves to be with someone who respects who he is, not someone who only sees him as a stepping stone to a dream life. That scares me, because I realize I might have lost a good man for no good reason, and I'm still not ready to tell him I'm sorry. I might say I regret how things turned out, but I guess if I'm totally honest, I regret more that I didn't get the outcome I wanted. A shinier life with a version of Shane that I invented in my head. So here I am telling you this, like we're friends, sitting at 2 in the morning, because I can't say it to anyone else without them judging me hard. But that's the truth. I joked that my husband's only accomplishment was marrying me, and now I'm the one who walked out. People probably hate me for it, and maybe that's fair. I keep wondering if I should reach out, but then my pride stops me, and that's where I'm at, stuck in this weird limbo of knowing I messed up, wishing things had gone differently, but still not fully owning what I did. I don't know how this story ends, but I do know it's not the fairy tale I thought I deserved. I guess that's all there is to say. If this confession kept you hooked, make sure to subscribe, like, and share. We share powerful true stories every day that explore the complex realities of life.